Oh, hello, friends. Welcome to the show. Here we are. I keep thinking it's Monday. Today's Wednesday. Do a lot of running around today. Dinner, doing some gardening, grocery shopping, and day goes by in a flash. And here we are. So end of April already, which is scary how this year is just like flying by. And one thing about, I can always tell what time of the year it is because I always get these last minute brides contacting me about their sessions, and I think it was like yesterday, but it must have been like Saturday. I had them all out of whack with my days. Friday or Saturday or Sunday, had a couple of women contact me, about getting in and to do their bridal boudoir session. And, so my first question is, they both said days. They both wanted like the end of May and like the week after Labor Day. And one woman was like, well, when are you getting married? She said, in the middle of June. Like, the middle of June? It's like 10 days, 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work. And happens all the time. And I think the second woman was more towards July. So that's a little bit more time, but give somebody like 2 weeks or less than 2 weeks, I think, for her wedding day was out. People don't, one thing, and I try to accommodate, I try to do what I can to get the women in, but 2 weeks, you have your session and editing and reviewing, and you got to send all that stuff out to get printed and bound, and it's got to get shipped, and people never think that it takes like some time for all that stuff to happen. So I'm like, you gotta like bump it up. You gotta go like soon. But I haven't heard back from her, so maybe that wasn't going to work out in her plan. But that's why I don't have like a lot of hair over here. Like over the years, these last minute brides, and then like all with the last minute bride is like same thing with the last minute Christmas person, like someone who will contact you on December 15th and be like, oh yeah, I think we can schedule and do this for a Christmas gift. I'm like, no, it's way too late. But it happens all the time because people don't know. So I was dealing with some of these brides over the last couple of days, last minute people trying to squeeze them in. And you don't realize a lot of women's photographers too, the spring can be busy for them again. It's like wedding season. So as you start to get into April and May and June, there's a lot of weddings that time of year. Photographers can get fairly busy. Like I said, I try to do what I do, and I could squeeze somebody in. I'll squeeze them in, give them a shorter session or a simpler session or whatever. But sometimes they don't realize, and people don't think that it's going to be so busy. And I hate to, turn people away or say I can't do it. But wherever you may be, yeah, you got to get in, and especially in spring, book your session a couple months out. That way there's less stress on everybody. Keep a lot more of your hair. Try not to jam people in and do those last minute bridal sessions. It's fun. I'm always up for the challenge, but there's a reality of what the physically, editing, like I said, in printing takes a while and shipping takes a while. So you're up against these really tight deadlines. And I don't want to tell someone I could do something in some instances where I know time-wise it's just not possible. So go early. I hate having to give people bad news, because now that will happen. What is now? Like 24th of April. So from now, yeah, you'll all start to get these, I'm getting married in like 10 days. I'm getting married next week. Can I come in and do a session? You're like, where were you 3 months ago in January when I needed you? So it's one that happens every year. There's nothing you can really do about it. And, I really wanted to do this and I was so busy, and I get it. You're a bride, you're busy, you got a lot of stuff going on, and people sometimes don't think of coming in and doing their shoot for the last minute, but that's just part of the job. It's something I've always had to deal with. But anyway, my name's Michael. I'm a women's photographer from New Jersey. Been doing this for 15, 16 years, way too long. I've worked with hundreds of women through the course of my career, basically seen it all, done it all in the course of women's photography. And when it comes to, having people come in for sessions, like I said, women were not always really well informed about how this whole boudoir photography process worked. And through the course of my time, I've always heard the horror stories where people expected one thing and it turned out to be another, or they didn't know what to ask or what to bring. And I've heard the stories of things in sessions not always going so well for women. So it's always been important for me to educate people so they can make smart decisions, like not waiting for a week before your wedding to schedule to do a boudoir session, and I just want people to have great experiences and have a great time. Because you don't want to be mean, but not all photographers are the same. And that's the one thing you have to keep in mind. Like, no one would ever say all restaurants are the same. We've all seen Kitchen Nightmares, right? It's the same thing for photographers. And people, for whatever reason, don't understand that there's all different kind of situations going on out there. And women, unfortunately, find themselves sometimes it's not in a physically harmful kind of a thing, but they get themselves in messes and just, doesn't quite go the way that they always planned for their boudoir shoot. So we try to help everybody out, get them the information they need to have them have a great session and a great experience. But tonight we're here to answer some questions, and got a few ones in here tonight. So we're going to get in and get rolling on the question front. And I put these in a few days ago, so now I never remember what they are. Question number 1 with my allergy bad voice. Yeah, I'm doing a session as a gift for my anniversary, and I'd like to try a boudoir video. Looks fun. It is fun. What are popular video ideas? Yeah, this is an interesting question because boudoir video, even though it's been around for a while, it's just started to gain, I think, a lot of popularity over the past couple of years. And at this point, unlike photos, which we talked about a week or so ago, and actually I did a new video for that, where there's a lot of classic poses, the video end of it really isn't that established yet where you can say, ooh, this is a classic video or pose. It doesn't translate like that. But in my experience, the way it's been working, it seems to be the way that it's broken down is that they're really short videos, and then there are more, I call them feature, longer videos, which may run 3-4 minutes or longer. And some popular ideas, simple ideas for videos, especially, they don't have to be super long. It can be less than a minute, that we do and the women really like. And I'll just give you a couple examples because there's just a million examples out there. But even something just as simple as standing by a window in lingerie, and then if you're a photographer, can use a lot of compression on their lens and shoot really shallow. It's really pretty, and even if it's just going up and down, slow motion. We like slow motion, this looks cool. Slow motion, going up and down, and just simple. Woman can do some simple, turn. And the one thing about video, you got to be moving all the time. So even doing some simple turning, whether the pans down or looking over towards the camera a little bit, turning back, and just some simple motions by a window, putting your head up. And then when they edit these little cuts all together into a 60-second video or so, put some nice music on the background. It's very, very pretty. Even something simple, doesn't have to be complicated, like standing near a window and doing some simple turns and some simple movement. And that's something I found that women really, really like. Another popular thing that is simple to do, it's just, I didn't know, I'm saying I invented this, but even just kneeling in a bed again, if you're doing some real compression on shallow depth of field on that shot, women sort of kneeling there again and bringing their hands up and their head back and panning around again and taking a few shots coming up or coming down or turning, editing them together. And you don't have to do a lot of motion, really any dialogue involved, but you could do some real simple kneeling on the bed or standing videos when they're edited down into a couple segments that kind of flow together with some music that are really, really nice, easy things. I mean, some other ideas that are always seems to be popular with some of the women are undressing videos. We do a lot of portraits, so I've had someone bring in a tight, usually wear a really tight dress, and something where they maybe do a slow motion again of somebody undressing, which is kind of fun to do, and then kind of edit that together is another one I think of. And then there are the other type of videos. And I got to turn this way because I get embarrassed. I was always like shocked that, you know, as a photographer, we do these cutesy boudoir videos, which are fun, but a lot of women that come into really want to do something that's a bit more sexual. Gotta be careful here on the YouTube, shut it down. You know, we're going in another direction. So there will be plenty of we were talking about taking the dress off, you know, with some laundry underneath, but just taking everything off, crawling up on a bed, and again, just doing some lying there and panning up and down up the body. So it seems to be that, you know, when it comes to the video, this is like all women come in and they're okay with doing that stuff, and it just really caught me off guard. But so basically almost anything goes. A lot of it that we do is as lying down. If you're doing more erotic things, you can use your imagination where some of those videos may go to, but they don't have to, like I said. And really there's such a wide range of stuff that you could put on. And if you do a couple shorter clips, like I said, standing by a window, kneeling, even walking into a room and taking your dress down with some lingerie underneath are very, very simple. You don't have to practice your acting skills or anything. And when they get edited too, and some more fun things I've seen too, is you could roll around. Like, again, video's hard because I was talking about photos. I could put some examples up on the screen, but video's a little bit more difficult, but sort of rolling around on a bed and get your photographer to get you at a couple different angles. Those are fun things to do too. It's a little hard to describe videos like that, but there are lots of simple, easy ideas. If I would say more conservative boudoir things are popular, but just as much there is some stuff that gets to be a little bit more intense that I would have never imagined, but that is all what people enjoy doing as well. So have a chat with your photographer, and I'm sure they have a few ideas that they do a lot with their clients, and it's fun to do. You know, the only downside that I found that we're doing a lot of video only sessions now is that, unlike if you're doing a video only session, you know, you're going to have your album and you have like something tangible you can hand to somebody. With video, it's a little different still. And someone showed me once you can get a little tiny like purpose-built video player, and somehow you can load the videos on, I guess, with a little SD card or something, and it has a little tiny screen and you can give it to somebody. But with videos, you know, there's no tangible hand something to somebody. So even when I have somebody coming in for videos, we still do a few pictures, so that way they at least have a little something they could give to somebody. But just one little thing to keep in mind about if you're just doing video, if you want something as a physical presentation as part of a gift to somebody, it gets a little tricky. You got to figure out what you do on that front. But good question. Maybe time I'll have some example videos I can bring up here. I didn't think about that till too late. But again, it's tricky because videos are long. But I could play them. This is the interwebs. Onward and upward. Hey Mike, hey, I'm planning a boudoir shoot as a wedding gift. Hopefully you didn't contact your photographer 2 weeks before your wedding. I have some product choices. Is an album that's more expensive going to make my photos look better? It's an important gift. I remember chatting with this woman, and what she wants to know is she was presented with some options from the photographer that she was working with that ranged. There was a pretty vast difference in the prices, and the question is something that really costs a lot more, are your photos going to look better on a really fancy schmancy photo album than they say they would work on like a simpler or like a photo book? And the answer is a little complicated because they're two different medium, paper versus like a photographic substrate that really, so in its basic essence, yeah, I've always felt that the photos are going to look better on an album just because it's different. However, it really boils down to, and the way that I always try to present it to people is that if you spend $40,000 on a Honda Accord and you spend $145,000 on a Range Rover, they're both going to get you to the grocery store. You know what I mean? They're both going to get you there. Going to get you home. You're going to be able to get your packages in the back. So why would anybody spend $145,000 on a Range Rover when they could only spend $40,000 on a Honda Accord? But yet they do, right? So the answer isn't always in utility. The answer sometimes is because people want to have something a bit more luxurious and so forth. And that's what happens with a lot of albums. Like I said, the pictures look good in both of them. The pictures are going to look a little better in a photo album. Usually the pages are thicker, and unless you've held both of them in your hands, and it depends on where you're ordering your album from. Like, I'm out of whack tonight. I should put a photo album in here to show you. Some of them could be really thick, very heavy, and they just have a certain heft and feel to them. Like, you could shoot a bullet at it, they would stop a bullet. So when it comes to doing one versus the other, you would not be disappointed in what you're going to get in a photo book. And if budget allows and you really want to spare no expense and get something, fancy schmancy custom covers and stuff like that, getting an album is a great way to, if it's in the budget, if you really want that top-notch kind of presentation and feel, and some other ones that we get that have really fancy leathers or fabrics or they just, when you feel it, you could feel the difference in your hand. So in the album, pictures will look a little bit better. Not that the photo book or the less expensive is going to look bad. Like I said, it just boils down to budget, what you prefer to spend on those two things and how important it is to you. And it does get a little complicated, but, if possible, wait and see, defer your choice. Hopefully you don't have to make that choice before your session, because how would you know? But if you go to your session, your photographer should have samples of these things so you could see and feel and get a sense of the differences and choose what works best for you. But it's one of those things that's difficult to explain unless you've actually seen it in your own hands. So good luck with your session. And on to next question. Maybe this is a dumb question. This is the dumbest question I've ever seen. Yeah. But are there different styles of boudoir photography? And this is not a dumb question. And yes, there are different styles of boudoir photography. And the photographers themselves may not label themselves. Like restaurants may say, Chinese restaurant, Mexican restaurant, they'll have these labels, and you'll know what you're getting kind of going into that situation or that restaurant. But photographers, especially boudoir photographers, can still be different, although they may not label themselves as different. And really what you need to do, without getting too involved in the details of what these differences are, is that, you want to go and look at the photos. And some photographers may choose to do bright and well-lit, softer, prettier photos. There are some photographers that do more edgy, could be black and white with heavy flashes so that it looks more of a harsh shadow on their photos, and kind of like everything in between. There used to be more photographers that did like pinup style boudoir, like when you dress up from like 1940s and stuff like that. You don't see that too much anymore. And there are some photographers that do specialty styles of boudoir, like that, or someone, I think it was a question a week or two about angel wings, and some do some real particular styles like that. But in general, they're not going to label themselves as such, and it really just comes down to you looking through their galleries and finding someone whose photos you like, because that's probably what you're going to get when you get to go in and go to your session. But yeah, there will be all different kinds of styles, from cutesy to more erotic, or and everything in between. And you need to find the person that's going to best accommodate what you want. And there isn't a right version, there isn't a right or wrong style, just like there's not a right or wrong type of restaurant. It really comes down to what you want to do. If you want your session to be more pretty and bridal and, you know, as a gift, you may not want to choose a photographer who's showing lots of black and white, harsh, shadowy pictures in their galleries. As I start to lose my voice. Oh, excuse me. So it takes a little work, but yes, there are different styles. Remember, all photographers are not created equal. They're not the same. You got to do a little work out there to find out what you like and what sort of speaks to you. And, you know, so it's hard to do this all in one day. It takes a little while, and you have to go through and search, and that's why we were talking about it. It's work to find the right boudoir photographer for you. They're not all the same. Not at all. So good luck with your session, and good question. Thanks for asking that. Oh, yes. Not a question, but please make your viewers aware that bad breakups can happen, and they do happen. And you can lose your boudoir album. Have a copy or keep your digitals if you need them in the future. And yeah, this person wanted me to talk about what happened to them, and something that people don't immediately think of during their session. But what she's talking about is that whether you are married or you're dating somebody and you're together and you do a boudoir shoot for that person and give them that album or book, not that we want anybody to separate, but things tend to not work out sometimes. And what she means is that if a breakup happens, divorce, separation, whatever, fights, there have been instances where I don't always want to blame the man, but if the man will take the separating partner, I should say, may take the cherished book, album that we were talking about like earlier, and maybe dispose of it or not give it back to the person. And that may be the only copy of those photos. Because if you did not get or archive or save your digital pictures, you know, I think this woman was telling me that the person that she went was not around anymore. The photographer was not in business. She didn't have any copies of these photos. She couldn't hide her, couldn't get any more. She cherished those photos, and they were just gone. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. So if you are doing your session and you have an option to get your digital files, hang on to them, keep them safe, secure somewhere in case you have to ever reprint your album. Or I've had people do like companion albums where they've got the big one for a gift and another smaller one just for themselves as kind of a backup. Hang on to just in case. You know, because she was lamenting that, you know, there's no going back in time. There's no way to, she loved those photos. You know, it was a fancy album she had done, and they were just gone. And she looked through those photos from time to time, really enjoyed them. They made her feel good about seeing these because she looked good. She loved the way that she looked in these pictures. And I don't know the details of what caused that to be destroyed or thrown out, but it was no longer aware. There's no way to bring that back. And she was a bit heartbroken. And, you know, so her point was, you know, help people be aware that this is an unfortunate possibility due to a fight. So keep your photos, or if you have digitals, keep them safe. Keep them in 2 locations if you need to, or, you know, not always just on a computer, because if your computer crashes, then they're gone. Save them on a USB or some external device too. And so that way you can always reprint your album, or at least you have a copy of those digital photos, or if it's in the budget, get a companion album. You don't think at weddings get a companion album. You can get a little companion boudoir album just to keep as a backup in case, you know, you ever need one. We don't want that to happen to anybody. We want everyone to stay together. But the reality is, and I've heard this through the course of my career as well, and it is something you don't think of right away, but you know, important information that everybody should be aware of. So thanks for bringing that up. Sorry for the loss of your pictures, because I know it can be devastating. But we'll go from sad situation. Now we're talking about boobs. So see, I brought you down. Now we're going back up again. Boudoir is like a roller coaster. We're talking about losing your precious photos, and now we're talking about boobs. So it automatically shifts. Is there a special lens? Is there a special lens that will make my boobs look like I won the genetic lottery? Not an uncommon question. What the conversation was about was editing. We're talking a little bit, can you go too far? And sometimes people, you know, don't want to shoot like sort of topless or nude photos because they're just not super confident in how they feel. And are there ways to make people look little? And the short answer here is yes, to a degree. And remember, when you're working with like a digital photo, enhancing is not a problem to a degree, but you're working with pixels and you're working with pictures. When you start to go too far, you start to get distortion in a photo, because as you're spreading things out, you know, if you have 10 dots there and you start to spread them further apart, you start to wind up with empty space and things don't look right. So there are some tricks that your photographer can do to sort of enhance your look or make you look fuller, or whatever your preferences are for those photos to a point. Otherwise, it's going to look like somebody did something to the photo. And this works just for the opposite too. If you're squeezing things in, and especially if you're standing near, you have to be so careful standing near a doorway or something that's straight, because as your photographer pushes in, the door is going to start bulging, because that you're moving something else has to go to fill in that space. So also, when you're squeezing things in, you can do that to a certain degree. You may wind up distorting what's around the photo, which will really draw attention to that. And then also too, it just doesn't look right. So you have to be a little bit careful. But yeah, and so if you see something, you can always say, hey, yeah, can you boost me up a little bit here? Can you slim me down a little bit there? It's pretty simple to do in most situations for photographers. They're not going to go too far, again, because it's going to look really obvious, or, you know, you don't want that to be standing out in the pictures when you're obvious editing done. To me, that's always like driven me crazy. You just want someone to enjoy the picture, not to immediately fixate on something that they know doesn't look right. That's not what boudoir is about. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, and being real is better than being perfect. So don't too much. Just keep it. You're okay. Okay. Good question. Then on to number 6. Again, quench my throat here. Do most boudoir photographers usually provide outfits, or do I have to bring my own? And this is a question I get too once in a while, or you hear someone, if I'm booking with you, do you have like outfits I can pick from? And I don't, and I never have. But there are, and I think there used to be, I think there still are some photographers who may have wardrobe closets or wardrobe racks that I've seen, where they may have a selection of things that you can put on or use during a session. And that's okay. And if that's your preference, find somebody who who's done that. Now, the only thing I've ever really brought to sessions to share, once in a while I would have robes. Like I find an accessory that for whatever reason that I really liked, like a black sheer robes, and I brought in these kind of leather gartery things I saw and I liked, and everyone that came in, I would say, hey, try this, leather gartery or robes. If people wanted to do like nude photos, we put robes on just to make it look a little prettier. But I never carried like lingerie. And the reason I never got into that, well, one, because people are not all the same size, so that gets really tricky to have all these things when you have all different people coming in. But not only that, I always thought like, who wants to wear somebody else's like underwear? To me, and I guess that's a personal thing, and I shouldn't use my own kind of, in this situation, because I know people do it. But to me, it just was never a situation where I thought that was like the best thing to do. I did not want to be doing laundry, but I know if I wouldn't want to be wearing somebody else's, and who knows how many other people were wearing that outfit, but I know photographers do it. So if that's important to you, and I don't want to say usually they do, I'm going to say most don't. There's a few that do. But if that's important to you, check in, see if your photographer offers that. And, I've heard women, I don't want to spend all that money for something I'm never going to wear again. And that kind of makes sense. I used to, tell them, just go. Victoria's Secret takes all their stuff back. Just buy it, do a session and return it. But, I think that's something that may have been a bit more prevalent 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like a boudoir closet type of a thing. But I don't think it's as popular now for obvious reasons. But usually you're going to be buying your own lingerie when you go into a boudoir session. And I think this is our last one. Oops. Okay. Oh, what did I do? I have this in as a banner or something. There we go. I fixed it. Question 7. I know it's an old idea, but are people still using handcuffs in boudoir shoots? I still thought this would be fun, but I don't want to be out of style. I guess what she means are people still doing that. Got the ladies bringing in handcuffs to do boudoir shoots. I don't want to do it and seem weird or outdated. So, yeah, and a lot of props come in. I mean, handcuffs are one of those things that have been part of boudoir since like boudoir started, and people would bring it, like the furry cuffs and the leopardy cuffs. Some just straight metal cuffs, but yeah, and because people like to, bring in something that is part of their own lifestyle and use that in their session. So yeah, people still do bring in handcuffs once in a while. I'm trying to think of the last time I had somebody bring in handcuffs. It's been a while, maybe a year or so. I don't remember specifically. I think I still have some that I keep just in case somebody asks. I haven't looked to check on them in a while. I used to buy and keep a couple handy just in case someone came in and asked, like, oh, I meant to bring it. I didn't know if it was all right. And I was like, don't worry, I gotcha. So yeah, I don't keep underwear on hand, but I keep handcuffs on hand. But yeah, no, it's still something that you may see. I think what really kind of surpassed the handcuff in the past several years, I see many more women coming in with like I don't even know what you call them, like leathery restraints, I guess is the word. I'll see women coming in where and some of them are fancy. I like them, like these leather buckle cuffs. Maybe they're cuffs, and they still have like a chain in the middle, but they're not really a handcuff. It's kind of like, I guess, like a more bondagey type thing. And so they'll have those for their arms, and they'll have separate ones for the legs. Or I don't even know what you call them, these kind of things that manipulate and tie your hands and legs together. And I've seen more of those type of things coming in than just plain good old handcuffs. But Maybe people have switched their preference in how they want to be tied up. I don't know. But you would not be out of place by bringing in something like that. So you could still bring in your handcuffs. There's lots of ways you can use them in pictures, lying back and have your hands hanging over the side of the bed with your hands over your head, and you can still put them behind your back. And if you're headboard, sometimes we would handcuff people around through their headboard and get very dramatic. So there's lots of ways those can still be used. Bring them in and have your fun with them. Just make sure you have the keys with you, or have those safety ones. Like a billion years ago, I remember I had a woman who came in, and thankfully, I think she only locked one of them on her arm, and she didn't have her keys, or they lost the keys and she couldn't get the thing off her arm. And thankfully it happened towards the end of her shoot, so we had plenty of photos. But this poor woman had to drive home with a handcuff on her wrist, and that's all I needed. Got someone locked up in a or something like that. Or imagine if we'd have to like cut her, get bolt cutters or something and cut the chain out. So if you're bringing, just make sure you have keys. Or now a lot of these cheapy schmeepy ones, they're just safety buttons. They don't really even need keys. You just push like a latch and they open up. Just make sure you got your keys, or they know how to open. But bring them in, have some fun. It's just part of boudoir photography. That's what it's all about, having a little bit of fun like that with some props in your session. So no problem with that, and enjoy. And that was a good question as well. So we got through another show. I want to thank everybody for sending those questions in. As usual, if anything comes to mind about working with a boudoir photographer, just feel free to leave your questions in the comments below this video, or most of them are coming right through my website and my chat. People email me, but mostly it's on my phone. Will get a chat message during the day with someone asking me a question, which is fine too, as long as we can help everybody out. As I noted earlier, we're just about giving people good information so they can make smart choices when choosing their photographers and walk away with images they can enjoy for years and years to come. So I want to thank everybody again for spending a few minutes here tonight and watching the show. Had a lot of fun answering these questions, and I'm going to sip some more of my beverage out of my little girly plastic cup. Preserve my voice here a little bit for the rest tonight, and I will see everybody next time. So thanks, and have a good night.